Welcome to another episode of Rob Wright's Gen X Pop Culture. And today we're going to talk about baseball movies. As of right now, it is the fall and the baseball playoffs has started in 2023. My Texas Rangers, who are my team, actually won their first series against the Tampa Bay Rays. But I'm not going to go into sports and not going to give you scores, but we're going to talk about the movies. Over the years, we've had some great baseball movies. They're classics like Pride of the Yankees and Bang the Drum Slowly. You've got instant ones that from back in the day, like the Bad News Bears. And of course, The Sandlot was fantastic growing up as a kid seeing that. Then you got your classics, Field of Dreams, The Natural, of course, Bull Durham, and hilarious Major League. Eight Men Out, which is a great historical baseball movie. A League of Their Own with Gina Davis and Tom Hanks, and even Madonna. What a great movie that is. 42, the Jackie Robinson story. The Rookie, which I really love, is a great movie. Moneyball with Brad Pitt, which gets into the numbers of the game. You have the story of Ty Cobb with Tommy Lee Jones. Angels in the Outfield, I think I mentioned already. Fever Pitch, which is a great love story around baseball. And finally, a more recent movie, Trouble with the Curve with Clint Eastwood. Some great, great baseball movies. But there's a baseball movie out there that I think is one of the best. And I think it's one of the best baseball movies ever made. And I don't think a lot of people know about it. I call it a hidden gem, and we're going to talk about it today. So today's baseball movie is 61. It's an HBO production about the 1961 home run record chase of Roger Maris and Mickey Mantle, directed by Billy Crystal. This movie's fantastic. I strongly encourage that you see it. If you get a chance, it's really a great movie, a great biopic, and a great baseball movie. The tagline in the movie kind of tells you a little bit about it. Why did America have room in its heart for only one hero? And this is based on a true story. So as we look at baseball and we look at heroes, throughout history, we've had different heroes and different types of heroes. And over the last century or so in modern times, sports heroes have really started to emerge and come to the forefront of stories and legends and myths. We have legends of the game like Babe Ruth, Ty Cobb, some of those players in the 20s and 30s, Lou Gehrig, that just, you hear stories about and they were larger than life people. But what happens when heroes start to approach the records of legends? And this is kind of the story about that. Mickey Mantle was a hero to Yankee fans. He'd been with the team for 10 years in 1961, and he chased Babe Ruth's record in 1956 with 52 home runs. He actually won the Triple Crown that year, which is a feat that's very difficult to do in baseball. He was the next in line of the Yankee greats. You had Ruth, who wore number 3, Gehrig, who wore number 4, DiMaggio, who wore number 5, and actually when Mickey was actually brought up from the Yankees, he was given number 6, and he struggled with the Yankees, and he was sent back down to the minors, and he finally got it together, and then came back up with the Yankees, and they gave him number 7 instead of number 6, and soon after he retired from the game, his number was retired by the Yankees as number 7 as an all-time great. So Mickey Mantle was very popular. It was very much his team going into 1961, and he assumed a leadership role on the team. That gives you some background as to a little bit about this movie. The one thing about Mickey Mantle that not a lot of people know about, unless you really studied him, is that he played extremely hurt every game. He had all kinds of problems with joints, elbows, knees, everything. And the guy was truly a workhorse, and that really endeared him to fans and made him a hero. The other thing about it was that people were disappointed that sometimes he would miss quite a bit of games because he was so hurt. But a guy who played through pain and was truly heroic in the way he played the game. He also had some other issues that we'll get into in this movie where he struggled with alcohol and with womanizing, and we'll talk a little bit about Mickey Mantle and some of his stories as we get in there. And in 1960, Roger Maris actually joined the Yankees. He was traded from Kansas City to New York. He played right field, and he was your classic five-tool player. He was a great fielder. He could run, he could hit, he could throw, and he could hit home runs. And in 1960, he helped the Yankees get back to prominence. They had fallen off in 1959, and when Maris joined the team, he helped with Mickey lead them to a pennant. Unfortunately, they didn't win the World Series in 1960. Go consult your historical books for that one, because that's a very interesting series ending, and a very interesting series against the Pittsburgh Pirates, but we're not going to talk about that here. Maris was soft-spoken. He's really an everyman, and this is more his story. It tells you a little bit about Roger Maris, his personality, his home life, and what he went through chasing this record. The media in New York at the time and the fans really favored Mantle, and they didn't favor Maris. And Maris really didn't know how to react to the media. He just didn't know what to say. He was soft-spoken. He was from a small town, and he really struggled. And that's what this movie is about. It gets into the personal character of Maris as he's going for this mythical chase of the legend Babe Ruth. At the time, the home run record that Ruth set was in 1927, 60 home runs. So nobody had come close to getting it. You had a couple guys like Mantle hit 52, and a couple of other players that had hit in the 50s at the time, but nobody had hit the mythical 60. And Maris was on his way to doing that in 1961, and that's what this movie's about. So we're going to get into a little bit about the production. It's a very interesting production, how they shot this. It was made in 2021 is when it came out. And then we're going to talk a little bit about the cast, because the cast has some really, really interesting stories. And then finally, I'll wrap it up with some of my favorite scenes. Let me correct myself real quick. It actually came out in 2001, not 2021. Let's get into the production. It's an HBO movie. They were the producers of the film, and they were actually approaching Billy Crystal to have him help them produce the movie. And Billy Crystal read the script, and being an avid Yankee fan who knew all about the 1961 New York Yankees, he really wanted to direct it, and they let him direct it. Billy Crystal was also friends with Mickey Mantle, and he was able to use some of Mantle's stories to really update the script. You had a script that had some key moments, but Billy Crystal had actually talked to Mickey Mantle about living with Roger Maris and about what he went through during his seasons with the Yankees and just about everything. He learned all kinds of stories that were not public knowledge at the time. And Billy, with the permission from the Mantle estate and his heirs, was able to add a lot of these stories into the script. So it made it more authentic, and it made it easier to follow and had a really good progression with the characters. Like I said, Billy Crystal is a huge New York Yankees fan, and he knew everything about the 61 season. They said that he was a walking encyclopedia during the shoot. His nickname was Rain Man for his knowledge of the team and every aspect of the game. So he knew who was pitching when, how the players stood, how they did their batting stance. I mean, so much to the point where he knew how they would grind their spikes into the dirt when they would come to the plate. That's how knowledgeable Billy Crystal was about this team and about that season. Academy Award-winning cinematographer Haxel Wexler came on to shoot the film, and he basically told Billy Crystal that, hey, whatever you're going to pay me should go to the production of the film, because he really enjoyed it and wanted to make this film, and it was for the love of film and for the love of the game, and it really shows. I mean, it's a gorgeous cinematography, cinematic movie. I mean, the cinematography is excellent in this movie. The shots are fantastic. I love all the different angles and how the film was put together. Technically, I think it's just a fantastic movie, well shot. Now, the coolest thing about this movie is that at the time when they shot it in 2001, Yankee Stadium had been redone. Of course, they moved to the new ballpark later on in the aughts, but it had been redone and looked nothing like it did in 1961. So what they had to do is they had to find another stadium that could really show and really have the feel of the 1961 Yankee Stadium. And so at the time, there are only really three old ballparks that you could have used. Obviously, there's Wrigley Field, there's Fenway Park, and then, as luck would have it, the Detroit Tigers had just moved out of the Detroit Tigers Stadium and built a new one. And so the Detroit Tigers let them use the old stadium, and that old stadium had been there since 1912. So what they did was they filmed in Detroit and used that ballpark in place of Yankee Stadium. And so what they had to do was paint it and do some things to make it look like 1961 Yankee Stadium. One of the key elements of this was the seats. So back in 1961, the seats at Yankee Stadium were kind of an emerald green color. And unfortunately, at the time, they couldn't find the right color paint to really match it to change the stadium seats. So what they did was Billy Crystal actually had as a souvenir an old stadium seat from Yankee Stadium from I think either the 80s or the 70s. It'd been one of the ones that they painted over the emerald green to a blue, but there was a little chip in it, and he reluctantly let them view the chair and look at it, and with the chip in it, they were able to take a photograph of it and match the paint. And then with that, they were able to paint the stadium and put up tarps and other stuff to make it look like Yankee Stadium in 1961. I thought that was really, really cool. The fact that Billy Crystal had a seat and it had a paint chip in it. So it was really cool. They also used a little bit of digital backgrounds to match the different upper decks and the different signage and everything else to make it look like New York in 1961. At the time, you had digital effects were starting to play a bigger part in Hollywood, but they weren't as strong as they are now. Now you could just use green screen and do the whole thing. The cool thing was that when they were filming, Yogi Berra actually visited the set, and he was astonished with not only the actors, which we'll get into, but he was astonished at how it looked. I mean, he told the actors and Billy Crystal, yeah, this looks just like Yankee Stadium. I hit a home run out of here and over there and over there and over there. So they knew they got it right when Yogi came in and basically told them that it looked like the exact stadium. So the other cool thing about this is in the credits, Tiger Stadium is credited as playing Yankee Stadium, which I thought was a really cool nod. Let's talk about some of the actors that played these iconic baseball players in this movie. Barry Pepper was the lead actor in this movie. He played Roger Maris, and Billy Crystal tells a story about how he was shooting a movie in Florida at the time that Saving Private Ryan came out, and he went to go see Saving Private Ryan, and he saw Barry Pepper in that movie who plays the sharpshooter, and he's like, that's Roger Maris. And so he immediately wanted to get Barry Pepper for this movie. I thought that was hilarious. And as you'll see in the next slide where I put them side by side, Barry Pepper looks a lot like Roger Maris. It's really cool to see the comparison. Pepper had to learn how to hit like Maris, and also had to learn some of his movements. And Crystal really knew the Yankees and really knew these players so well that he was able to tell him specifics about his batting stance. Not just what you see in film right before he hits the ball, but like how he'd approach the plate and what he would do. So he also talked about how Barry Pepper talked about how he was kind of nervous about this role and he had trouble sleeping, and it got him into character. One of the other things that he said was at the time he was a real young actor and he was rather intense. And that intensity really played into his role as Roger Maris, because during this time, Roger Maris was incredibly intense and had a lot of trouble dealing with the media and what people were saying about him. I mean, it got to the point where he had trouble sleeping. He had hair falling out of his head. It felt like nothing was going right for him as he was setting this record because nobody really liked him in the media and from the fans. He had teammates that helped him out through that, and he had family and other supports. But, as you'll see as you watch the movie, it was very stressful for Roger Maris during this home run chase. And Barry Pepper really does a great job of playing him. The other thing that I heard about was the Maris family, his kids, his wife, and his mom actually got to see this movie, and they felt he did a good job. And when they did a private screening for the Maris family, who incidentally, just so you know, at first they weren't necessarily on board with this because of all that happened with their dad in this movie and how do you really portray what happened to him and really get it right. So they were a little bit edgy on it, but when they showed him the movie, they said that the Maris family, there were tears at the end of the movie, and his mom actually said, "That's my son." Maris actually passed away in 1985, so he never got to see this movie or any of it on this, but he lived it, and his family really appreciated the job that Billy Crystal did with that. Thomas Jane plays Mickey Mantle, which is really cool. I mean, Billy Crystal thought that he looked the part, and at one point after he had hired him, he told Thomas Jane to turn a certain way, and he's like, "Yep, that's Mickey. That's exactly what Mickey looks like." Now, the ironic thing is he kind of lied about being able to play baseball, and when he finally got the job, Billy Crystal asked, "Hey, can you play baseball?" And Thomas Jane said no. He'd never played baseball in his life. And Billy Crystal was just, it fits because he's like, I got this guy, he's going to play Mantle, he's never played baseball, what am I going to do? So they had a consultant who played back in the day named Reggie Smith, and Reggie Smith was actually a good baseball player who, like Mantle, was a switch hitter. He played against Mantle and Maris. He knew the ins and outs of the game, and he knew the ins and outs of that. He told Billy Crystal, "Okay, look, don't contact us. Give me 2 weeks. Let me work with Thomas Jane, and in 2 weeks come back and we'll show you." So Billy Crystal came back 2 weeks later, and Billy Crystal said that this guy was in the outfield shagging balls, and he's like, "Okay, what's going on?" And then they called him, "Hey Mick, come in," and he ran like Mickey Mantle, came back in, and then proceeded to get up to the plate and had the exact batting stances, batted exactly like Mantle, and Billy Crystal was very satisfied. Thomas Jane, what a professional for him to go and do that. And the funny thing that he remarked about the movie was that since he'd never played baseball, the only way he knows how to hit and play is like Mantle, which I found is really cool. Like I mentioned, the other thing about Mickey Mantle with this film is that Billy Crystal actually knew him. So Billy Crystal added some stories that the public didn't even know about Mickey Mantle at the time into this movie with permission from the Mantle estate. Mickey's sons and wife actually visited the set, and they were astonished at how well that these two actors looked like both Mantle and Maris. And I'll get into a little bit about Mickey Mantle's son and grandson in my favorite parts of the movie, but they just thought that it was well cast, and they really did a good job of portraying Mantle. When I get into some of the scenes, some of the things that he does, some of the things that he says are hilarious. He also has his accent, which is kind of an Oklahoma Southern drawl. He does that perfectly, and it's just fantastic. Another actor in this movie who we already talked about in the Breakfast Club is Anthony Michael Hall, and he played pitcher Whitey Ford. Whitey Ford was actually left-handed, but Anthony Michael Hall is right-handed. So they had to do a typical movie trick that you've seen done from back in the day, but you may not know about it, where basically they had to reverse his uniform and then shoot it in, flipping the film and reversing the film, so it made him look like a left-handed pitcher. And Anthony Michael Hall does a good job in this movie. One of the key things that you may not know is that Whitey Ford, Billy Martin, and Mickey Mantle were all good friends. They were all drinking buddies. And apparently Casey Stengel called them slickers, that they were slick with, going out and partying and then coming back and being able to play the next day and stuff like that. And so Whitey Ford calls Mickey Mantle, nicknamed Slick, during the movie. Is from that, and it's one of the many stories that Mickey Mantle told Billy Crystal that he was able to add to the script. Rounding out the script, you've got a couple of other actors that you may be familiar with. You've got Richard Mazer as one of the reporters, Milt Kahn. He's actually the reporter that's nice to Maris, that's really was kind of on Maris's side. During that time, you may recognize him as the father in License to Drive, a great 80s movie. Bruce McGill as the manager, Ralph Houck. Bruce McGill, as you'll remember, at least I remember him from Animal House, and he's been in several TV shows. Chris Bauer as Bob Curve, who is the roommate of Mickey and Billy during this time. He was also a reserve player on the Yankees. And then Billy Crystal's daughter actually plays Roger Maris's wife in 1961 in the movie. So those are some of the actors. Just an amazing cast and a great way that they did this. Like you said, Yogi Berra had remarks that they looked exactly like Maris and Mantle, and the families thought that they looked a lot like Maris and Mantle from back then. So great job on the cast, great job on the production. Let's talk about some of my favorite scenes in this movie. So I'll talk about some of my favorite scenes, but first I want to point out this slide. In the upper left-hand corner is an actual photo of Roger Maris, and right next to him is Barry Pepper, and you can kind of see the resemblance. There's Roger again on the right-hand side with the 61 jersey, and the guy that caught the ball for his 61st home run. The bottom left-hand corner is Maris and Mantle, and then kind of in the bottom middle is Maris up against the Wall of Fame in the outfield at Yankee Stadium at the time. Some rather cool photos that I wanted to add for this movie. So let me talk a little bit about some of my favorite scenes. So when you start out the movie, we start out in 1998. And in 1998, there was the home run chase with Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa going for Maris's record. Now, I'm not going to get into the steroid allegations. I'm not going to talk about that. At the time in 1998, when I was watching both Sammy Sosa and Mark McGwire, I had no idea that they had steroids or any of that. It was just a wonderful moment in baseball history at the time. But I thought it was cool how they started out in 1998. And one of the things that Mark McGwire really did do was contact Roger Maris's wife, and did contact the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame to really get Roger's bat out and to really invite the Maris family to be part of that. And he didn't have to do that. And it was really a testament to Mark McGwire at the time really caring about baseball history and really wanting to honor Roger Maris and the Maris family. And I thought it was portrayed really sweet in the movie. And actually, it was a good scene at the time when Mark McGwire did break Maris's record at the time, and it was a game against the Cubs and Sammy Sosa. And so the cool, realistic footage from back then was after he hits it, he and Sammy kind of embrace as competitors trying to reach that goal. And I thought it really leads into the movie. But the Maris family was there, and Mark McGwire at the press conference mentions his bat being able to sit next to Rogers in the Hall of Fame. And the bat kind of carries us back in 1961 and the rest of the movie. So I thought it was just a real touching way to do it at the time. So my next favorite scene, you get to see kind of the character of Mickey Mantle. So the start of the movie and the start of the 61 season, Mickey Mantle was actually living in a suite in a hotel. And we see one scene where he kind of goes off the rails, and he gets drunk and causes a scene at a gas station. Whitey Ford has to get Roger Maris and Bob to really help him out and help him corral Mickey and get him back home. And it's just a real funny scene where you kind of find out, you hear I heard the term slick. You get a real feel for what was going on at the time and what they tried to keep hush hush out of the media for Mickey's drinking problem and a little bit of his womanizing problems, which most of that they kept out of the media at the time, but later on Mantle would talk about that, and before the end of his life, he did get help and did get help for his alcoholism and spoke out against some of those times and even regretted some of those stories and some of the things that happened during that time. But it was really a funny scene, and you got to see kind of what it was like back then and what dealing with it was. And of course, this led to really Mickey Mantle moving in with Maris in a quieter part of town so that he could stay healthy, so he could kind of lay off some of the booze and some of the girls so that they could really concentrate on the season and really not only get back to the World Series but win it. Because, like I said, they didn't win it in 1916. They probably should have. But it left a sour taste in their mouths, and as competitive baseball players, they really wanted to win that championship. My next favorite scene is actually later on in the movie, and there's a point where it's just so tense for Roger, and he and Mantle kind of get into a fight about it. Mantle had just hit another home run heroically with one arm to come close to catching Maris at the time, and he goes out drinking and then comes back home and Maris is just scolding him, taking out all his stress and frustration, and Mantle's like, well, hey, look, it's not my problem. I told you how to deal with these guys. You're not listening to me. And it's just a very intense scene, but it's a really good scene, and it shows a little bit about what Billy really brought to the story, knowing some of Mantle's stories. Now, Mantle and Maris, I've heard some stories that they really didn't have a fight like that or anything like that, but I'm sure that Mantle was trying to help his teammate a little bit with some of the pressure, and it wouldn't surprise me if Maris, had some fits of rage and Mantle had to try and calm him down or help him out. After all, they were teammates and they were good friends. They were friends all the way through the rest of Maris's life. When Maris died, Mickey was actually a pallbearer for Roger Maris. So that was a cool scene. Another really good scene is late in the movie. So one of the key parts of this movie was that you had the commissioner of baseball who was also real close to Babe Ruth. And what he declared was, hey, if you're going to break the record, you have to break it in 154 games. Well, that season, 1961, is when they went to 162 games because they added teams in the American League, and so 8 more games were added. Ironically, 162 games is what we play today. But they had to break it by that point, or else there would be 2 records, thus the 61 and the asterisks. So there's a scene where they're playing in Baltimore, and Roger's just under so much pressure. He doesn't want to play the game, but his manager convinces him, hey, look, go play a couple innings, and if you don't feel like playing the rest of it, let me know, and I'll get you out of it. Well, Roger Maris comes out to bat, and he gets a fastball and knocks it out of the park, and it's number 59. And, from that point in that game, he decides to stay, and he kind of gets back into it with the baseball. And then in the last inning, the Yankees score a couple of runs to try and get him one last at bat to try and tie Ruth. And in comes the knuckleballer. And ironically, in the movie, they say the knuckleballer was brought in just to face Maris, but he was brought in at the beginning of the inning and got the other 2 guys out before he faces Maris. And for those of you that don't know what a knuckleball is, it's a very hard pitch to hit. It moves differently than a fastball or curveball or any other type of ball. And a lot of times, catchers, especially at that time, would use a bigger glove to try and catch it just because it had so much movement on it. And, at the time, you see that this was kind of a move to not give up another home run, is how it was perceived. So Roger gets up and he grounds out and doesn't get the record in that time frame. And so it's a very interesting moment. There's also part of that scene is Roger Maris's wife, who was living in Kansas City at the time, goes to the local TV station to watch the game, and she makes it just in time for the number 59 home run. And you also see Mrs. Ruth reacting to the 59 home run, which I thought was really cool. Of course, one of my other favorite scenes is in the final game of the season. Roger Maris finally comes to the bat against Boston, gets a fastball, and knocks it out of the park for number 61, setting the record for the most home runs in baseball. And it was a separate record with an asterisk until 1991 when they decided to take it away and give him the title. And unfortunately, part of the sad part about this movie is that Roger Maris, who died in 1985, never knew that the home run record was actually his, which is kind of sad and kind of touching at the same time. But you know what? The other thing about it is that asterisk made for a little bit more special story, and I don't know that we would have this story had it not been there. And then a final scene that I really, really enjoy. It's at the very tail end of the movie. So you had Mickey Mantle's son and grandson, and I'm not sure if the grandson was born before Mickey died in 1995, but they're sitting in the stands, and they show a scene where Mickey's hitting a home run, and his dad goes, "That's Mickey Mantle's son, and that's a home run." And so it was almost like a touching moment where his son and his grandson got to see him kind of hit a home run. Granted, it was a movie actor playing him, but still touching nonetheless. So that's it for this wonderful baseball movie, 61. If you haven't seen it, I would strongly encourage you to find it and see the movie. It's a great film. Tell me what your thoughts are on this movie if you have seen it. Tell me if you were around back then and played baseball or really saw this in real life unfolding. Tell me your stories. We'd love to hear them in the chat. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and we'll see you on the next one.